Before my nephew Alex's university entrance exam, my sister-in-law, Jane Chen, was tricked into buying over 100,000 yuan worth of scholar's water to boost his brain power. By the time I found out, Alex had already started rolling his eyes. I immediately called for an ambulance. Jane, however, tried to stop me, claiming a master had assured her it was a normal phenomenon. The result was Alex failing his exams, and my entire family blamed me, even directly pushing me down the stairs. When I woke up, I was back on the day I first discovered the situation. This time, I didn't intervene. I just watched Alex, his eyes rolling back, and said, "This child must be so tired, he's fallen asleep on the sofa." I added, "Cover him with a blanket so he doesn't catch a cold." Hearing me, Jane Chen breathed a sigh of relief, hid the bottle of water behind her back, and went into the room to get a blanket for Alex. The bottle of water in her hand disappeared. "Right," she mumbled. "This boy studies until midnight every day. He rarely gets a break. Let him sleep a little longer." I pretended not to see her small action, knowing she was afraid I'd discover this good stuff and buy it for my own daughter, Amy. I grabbed my documents and left for school. As I walked out, Alex on the sofa had already begun to roll his eyes and twitch slightly. As expected, before evening, my mother called, reporting that Alex had been poisoned and rushed to the hospital for stomach pumping. At the hospital, my brother, David, and my mother were berating Jane Chen. What on earth happened to Alex? Seeing me arrive, my mother grabbed my sleeve and explained the whole incident, then blamed me, saying if I hadn't found out earlier, Alex might have died. I replied, "If there really was such a miraculous medicine, the person who needs to drink it most would be you, mother." Infuriated, my mother turned and scolded Jane Chen. Her furious expression was exactly the same as when, in my previous life, they had blamed me for Alex failing his university entrance exam. "It's all your fault. Alex failed his exam because of you. You must take responsibility for his entire life." In my previous life, Alex was in his final year of high school. His mock exams weren't good, scoring just over 400 points, which devastated Jane Chen, who had placed immense hope in him. She started going everywhere, praying to gods and Buddhas, hoping he would pass with high marks. Then she somehow met a master on WeChat and bought a bottle of scholar's water for 108,000 yuan, claiming it would boost memory and intelligence. Jane Chen was immediately convinced, selling her car to buy it. Later, I discovered it and took Alex to the hospital. The doctor said we were lucky to have found it early. Inducing vomiting would be enough. My mother and brother, upon hearing this, immediately scolded me. Jane Chen only did it out of love for her son. What if that medicine really worked? So, when Alex failed university, everyone blamed me. If you hadn't taken him to the hospital, he would have gotten into Than Hoa University. Jane Chen looked at me like an enemy. "It's all your fault. I think you didn't want my son to be smarter than your daughter, so you secretly sabotaged him." My mother and brother also showered me with accusations. During the scuffle, Jane Chen pushed me, and I fell from the upper floor. It wasn't until Alex was wheeled out of the emergency room that the whole family breathed a sigh of relief. As soon as he was moved to a regular ward, after the doctors and nurses left, my brother couldn't hold back and slapped Alex. "Call the police, quickly get our money back." Realizing her mistake, Jane Chen trembled as she called the police. But the scammer used a fake identity, and the WeChat account had long disappeared. There was no way to catch them. After Alex regained consciousness, although he wasn't seriously injured, he had missed the most crucial period of his final year, greatly affecting his studies and exams. Jane Chen, knowing her fault, began to find all sorts of folk remedies to nourish Alex's health, and he was eventually discharged. Just then, the school held a second mock exam, and the results were much better than before. Could that medicine really have worked? A glimmer of doubt mixed with joy flashed in Jane Chen's eyes. The whole family looked at Alex's exam, which had increased by over 10 points, and sat together in the living room analyzing it. My brother was still hesitant. "No way, the doctor said it was just a scam." But with such good results, and Alex hadn't even studied while hospitalized, his scores still increased. It must be the medicine working. My brother and mother still pondered. I stood by, barely suppressing a laugh. Fluctuations in mock exam results are normal, yet the credit was being given to that medicine. However, I also pretended to agree. Maybe it did work. Tonight, when Alex comes home, ask him how he feels and we'll know. All afternoon, Jane Chen was restless. Now she needed Alex to confirm that the medicine really worked. After all, she had sold her car to buy that medicine, and it almost made my brother demand a divorce. If it weren't for Alex being at such a critical stage, they probably would have divorced already. Around 10 p.m., Alex finally came home. Jane Chen immediately rushed over. "Alex, did you feel any effect from drinking that medicine?" "It worked. It really worked." Alex excitedly replied, "Mom, do you still have that medicine? Lately, I felt incredibly clear-headed and I memorized things very quickly." Hearing this, everyone in the family rejoiced. Only I felt both amused and helpless. Clear-headed, memorizing quickly, couldn't it just be from getting enough sleep? Brain resting well so the mind is sharper. But I didn't say it, just stood by and watched the show. "My son is so smart. I told you the medicine worked." Jane Chen triumphantly glanced at my mother and brother. The two who had scolded her most harshly now looked as if they had just been vindicated. "It's just a shame the medicine is all gone now. I only drank half of it before throwing up. Otherwise, I would have been a genius." After saying this, he gave a meaningful glance. My mother understood, stiffened, and stammered her defense. Back then, I was just scared. My brother also felt a bit disgruntled. "Over 100,000 yuan just gone like that? Or should we buy Alex another batch?" Jane Chen probed. The two looked at each other, then simultaneously turned to my mother. "I don't have 100,000 yuan." My mother, afraid of their gazes, took 2 steps back. "Lily, help Mom say a few words." Suddenly called by name, I could only give a wry smile. How times have changed. In my previous life, I begged them to speak up for me, and they told me to take responsibility for my own mistakes. Now it was my turn to reply. "I don't have money either, Mom. You know how my daughter and I have lived these past years. Amy's father passed away suddenly, leaving us only this house. At first, I rented out the spare room to cover expenses. After Alex started school nearby, to make it easier for him to commute, I gave up that space for him, so I stopped renting it out." "Mom, you also thought you weren't short on money. Even though Amy's father died early, he left enough assets for us to live comfortably, without worry, and you thought you should help your nephew if you could." After that, my mother, brother, and sister-in-law used the excuse of living together to help Alex study and moved in. I didn't say anything. "That's right, Lily isn't exactly well off either," my brother chimed in, because I had never told them about my inheritance. At first, when they learned I couldn't rent out the room, they felt a bit guilty. "If Mom doesn't have money, I certainly don't. What does an old woman like me have?" My mother expressed her dissatisfaction. "Well then, just sell the house," I replied. "Why don't you sell your house, Mom?" "What are you saying? This house was left to Amy and me by her father. Our last resort. If we sell it, how will Amy and I live?" My mother, realizing her unreasonableness, didn't dare look me in the eye. Jane Chen suddenly spoke up. "How about selling the house in the countryside? Anyway, we're living at Lily's house now, so there's no need to worry about a place to stay. When Alex becomes successful later, he can buy it back." Hearing that brazen, confident remark, I almost burst out laughing in anger. They're living for free and still don't want to move out. My mother originally didn't want to agree, but fearing that if she didn't, she would be asked to put up money, she finally just mouthed words without speaking. My brother, on the other hand, pondered for a moment and then nodded. "That's fine, the house in the countryside doesn't have much appreciation potential anyway. Better to sell it." Hearing this, I widened my eyes. Who says it has no appreciation potential? Not long from now, the government will announce plans to develop that area into an ecological tourist zone. Land prices will skyrocket. Since they intended to sell, I might as well buy it myself, but I couldn't use my real name. They couldn't know it was me buying it. I went to my daughter Amy's paternal grandparents' house. As expected, my brother and sister-in-law acted quickly, immediately preparing to sell the house. Although it was a rural house, it was spacious, near mountains and water, truly a beautiful location. They priced it at 500,000 yuan, and a few days later it was sold. Jane Chen, clutching the money, eagerly reconnected with the person who had introduced her to the master. After some effort, she indeed managed to buy more. Back home, Jane Chen gleefully brought out the scholar's water. "You used all the money to buy this water." Even though I knew Jane Chen was greedy, seeing her produce 4 bottles, I couldn't help but be astonished. "The master said the more you drink, the smarter you become." As if afraid I would ask for some for my daughter, she quickly added, "It's all for Alex." I smiled coldly inside, but outwardly pretended to praise her. "Sister-in-law, you truly are a good mother, willing to sacrifice for your child." Saying that, I immediately called Alex over. Jane Chen even asked for him to be excused from school. So he could drink the medicine early, my mother and brother also came over. Seeing the scholar's water, everyone's eyes lit up. Alex, drink quickly. This time we won't stop you anymore. The medicine has worked. When you wake up, you'll surely be a genius. Jane Chen handed the bottle of water to Alex, her eyes full of anticipation, as if already seeing a bright future. Alex didn't hesitate, drinking it all in one gulp, not leaving a single drop. Seeing he had finished, the stone in Jane Chen's heart finally dropped. She pushed Alex back to his room. The master said, "Just one bowl is effective. Alex, go back to your room and rest. This time, no one will disturb you anymore." The next morning, the whole family eagerly opened Alex's bedroom door, but the scene before them made Jane Chen scream. "Alex, Alex, what's wrong with you? Wake up." The bedroom was a mess, the bookshelf overturned, books scattered everywhere. Alex's face was pale, lying unconscious on the floor, his chest stained with blood. No matter how Jane Chen called, he didn't wake up. "What's happening?" My mother and brother were both panicked, but no one dared to call an ambulance, afraid of spoiling the medicine's effect. "Call the master, ask him what's going on." My brother was the first to regain his composure, looking at Jane Chen, who was still frantically calling Alex. "Yes, call the master, he must know what's happening." Jane Chen trembled as she stood up, took out her phone, and called the master. "The number you have dialed does not exist. How can this be?" Did I misremember the number? She tried a few more calls, but no one answered. She went on WeChat to send a message and found she had been blocked. He blocked me. Finally, my brother called 911. Jane Chen was about to say something, but seeing she was blocked on WeChat and Alex's breath getting weaker and weaker, she finally relented. The surgeon was the same doctor as last time. As Alex's hospital bed was pushed into the emergency room, he angrily snapped, "How could you let this child drink that medicine again? I warned you that medicine contains a large amount of stimulants, causing severe damage to the body." The three of them stood outside the emergency room. No one spoke, no more arguments or blame like last time, only silence. A few hours later, the doctor came out. "How is he, doctor? Is my son okay?" My brother asked first. The doctor sighed wearily. "His life was saved, but the medicine has caused brain damage affecting his intellect." What did you say?" Jane Chen's voice trembled in disbelief. "Affect his intellect? My son was going to test into Than Hoa University. He's a Than Hoa seed, he can't have brain damage." "That's right, doctor, please find a way to save him. My grandson is about to take his university entrance exam." The doctor frowned angrily. "We've done our best. That medicine is inherently harmful. Last time it caused irreversible damage to his nervous system. This time, not only was the dose increased, but he was also brought in too late. There's nothing more we can do." "You terrible doctor, my son can't be like that. Impossible." Jane Chen screamed, tears streaming down her face. But the doctor had long been accustomed to such scenes, and moreover, everything was her own doing. Naturally, no one pitied her. He just coldly said, "Please calm down, we've done our best. If you continue to cause a disturbance, we'll have to call security." But Jane Chen didn't care to listen, continuing to shout and curse loudly, drawing other patients out of their rooms to watch. Seeing the doctor actually intending to call security, my mother and brother stepped forward to stop her. My brother slapped Jane Chen. "Can you stop this tantrum already? If you hadn't forced Alex to drink that so-called scholar's water, he wouldn't be like this." Jane Chen shrieked. "Oh, wonderful. Now you're putting all the blame on me. You agreed when I bought the medicine." She wasn't one to easily accept blame, and this time the whole family had discussed and decided together. She was even less willing to bear the blame alone. So the two lunged at each other. My mother, seeing her son being hit, naturally rushed in to help. The three of them had a chaotic brawl, and finally, the doctor had to call security to quell the disturbance. After being moved back to a regular ward, my brother threatened her. "Jane Chen, you better pray to heaven that your son is okay, otherwise I'm divorcing you." "Who's afraid of whom? Do you think I can't live without you?" The two were about to argue again when a nurse at the door reminded them. The verbal battle temporarily subsided. The room fell into a deathly silence. It wasn't until Alex woke up that Jane Chen was the first to grab his hand. "Alex, how are you? Is there anything uncomfortable?" What responded was a strong smell of feces. Alex had defecated in his pants. Calling the doctor to examine him, they found that Alex had intellectual disability. His current intelligence was even less than that of a 3- or 4-year-old child. My brother immediately called the police to catch the scammer. The police could only laugh. People who get scammed once and then willingly fall for it a second time are rare indeed. It was then that Jane Chen confessed the truth. The person who contacted the master was an intermediary. She provided that person's WeChat. The police investigated and found that the intermediary and the master were the same person. Finally, they caught the entire scamming ring. It turned out to be a professional fraud organization. Although they were caught, the money had all been spent. Hearing this news, my mother was so angry she fell ill and fainted on the spot. My brother decided to divorce Jane Chen. Alex also dropped out of school. The whole family was in utter chaos, like a beehive disturbed, with chickens flying and dogs barking, a true breakdown of the household. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, it was the aftermath of my death in my previous life. The police investigated the cause of death. The whole family unanimously said I had slipped and fallen down the stairs. The final conclusion, an accident, but when they saw my inheritance of several million, all three of them grinned from ear to ear, their eyes narrowed. I had left my assets to my daughter, Amy, but my mother, as her guardian, took everything. I could only watch helplessly as my daughter lived a life of oppression, dependent on others. It wasn't until her paternal grandparents found out that they regained custody, and her life finally improved. But when she grew up, my mother was instigated by my brother and sister-in-law. They introduced her to a man over 40. I saw him attempting to do something depraved to her when no one was looking. I wanted to rush to protect my daughter, but I suddenly woke up. Looking at the familiar dark room, it took a while to compose myself. I had been reborn. Frightened, I quickly ran to my daughter's room and held her all night. When she woke up, she drowsily asked, "Mom, why are you in my room?" Her voice still carried the sweet, sleepy tones of a child. She had just started middle school, her face still chubby, smiling with two adorable dimples. "Amy, can you go stay at your grandparents' house for a while? Your mother has something very important to do." She nodded blankly. Looking at my daughter, my heart ached endlessly. Remembering what they had done to her in my previous life, the hatred in my heart grew even deeper. It's coming soon, the old house is about to be demolished, and their karma is also approaching. Not long after I took Amy away, sure enough, news came that the old house was about to be demolished. Although they had sold the main house, the ancestral land and surrounding mountains would also be compensated for several million. As soon as this news spread, everything immediately turned around. Jane Chen, who had been determined to divorce and push Alex onto my brother, now no longer mentioned divorce. Instead, she tried every way to curry favor with my mother and brother. So, when my mother again complained, "If we hadn't pushed to sell the house earlier, we would have gotten an extra few $100,000 now." Glancing sideways at Jane Chen, she could only lower her head in silence, swallowing her anger. I secretly met my mother. "When the compensation money comes, let's take Alex to get re-examined, okay? Maybe he can still be saved." My mother seemed a bit hesitant, asking, "So how much money will that need?" I feigned annoyance. "No matter how much it costs, we have to treat him. He's your grandson, Mom. Do you want your son and sister-in-law to divorce, so your son can marry another woman and have another grandson for you?" My words had no deep meaning, but the listener thought deeply. As expected, that night my mother sought out my brother and me. "Now that our family has this compensation money, let's give Jane Chen a share and divorce her." Seeing my brother's hesitation, my mother thought he still had feelings for her and continued to persuade him. "Alex is already disabled. Even if we spend all the money to treat him, it's not guaranteed he'll be cured. Should the whole family suffer just to treat him? It's better to let Jane Chen leave with the child, at most give her a little more money. Consider it compensation for all these years." Seeing my goal achieved, I concealed the joy in my heart, pretending to be troubled. "Mom, isn't that a bit too much? After all, Jane Chen has been a daughter-in-law for so many years and has been dedicated to our family." Before I finished speaking, my brother cut me off. "What's too much? Our family has come to this point all because of her. She's the one who found that scammer, causing us to lose all our money and also harming Alex to this extent. I haven't even reported her to the police out of consideration for our years of marriage." My brother was originally selfish, often avoiding problems, but as soon as his own interests were touched, he immediately turned hostile. For example, regarding the house sale, it was clearly his decision, but now he was blaming it all on Jane Chen. Hearing my brother say this, my mother felt relieved. I thought you still cared for Jane Chen. Now that I hear this, I'm relieved." "Care for her? I've wanted to divorce her for a long time. I just feared she'd cling on and refuse to let go. Women like Jane Chen, when they have no money, demand a divorce, but now that there's money, they cling on like leeches and won't leave." My brother sighed. My mother's eyes gleamed with malice. This isn't up to her to decide. I curiously leaned closer and asked, "Mom, do you have a plan?" "You'll know when the time comes." The next morning, my mother went out early, returning only in the evening, bringing with her a man I never expected. This man wasn't tall, a bit fat, and smiled in a friendly way, but his eyes were full of cunning. He was the eldest son of my village chief, the very man my mother intended to introduce to my daughter in my previous life. He was in the city this time for business and would be staying at our house for a night. I clenched my fists, my entire body aching from suppressing my anger. He cheerfully greeted everyone. My mother warmly welcomed him and even told me to cook a lavish dinner to entertain him. I was busy in the kitchen. By the time my mother came in, most of the dishes were almost done. She secretly handed me a bottle of medicine. "Put this medicine into Mr. Su and Jane Chen's soup." "Mom, what kind of medicine is this?" "Don't ask, just make them drink it. By then, even if Jane Chen doesn't want a divorce, she won't be able to." My mother finished speaking and left the kitchen. I put away the rat poison I had intended to use and put the medicine my mother gave me into his soup bowl. Dinner was served in abundance. Everyone ate and drank boisterously, toasting each other until they were sloshed. I watched with my own eyes as Mr. Su, after drinking the soup, turned flushed, his desires burning, and he staggered as he supported the equally drunk Jane Chen. He led her into the bedroom. My brother and mother had been pretending to be drunk. As soon as the two entered the room, they sat up abruptly, as sober as if they hadn't had a drop. I asked, "Mom, brother, what is this about?" My brother said coldly, "They were old flames. Consider it bringing them together." I was confused. So that's how it was. If they despised the Su family so much, why did they marry my niece to him in my previous life? A scream shattered the morning silence. My brother and mother hadn't slept all night, waiting to catch them in the act. Hearing it, they rushed into the bedroom, only to find Jane Chen hugging a blanket, sobbing uncontrollably. Mr. Su, naked, stood there staring blankly at us. "Get dressed and come out," my brother said coldly. When the two came out of the room, we were already seated on the sofa, waiting for a long time. "Tell us, how do you intend to resolve this?" My brother sat with his legs crossed, smoking, squinting at Mr. Su. Mr. Su's face was full of regret. "Brother David, you tell me, is it compensation or what?" "Compensation? I want to divorce her and let her take Alex with her," my brother stated his mind bluntly. Jane Chen, hearing this, looked up and screamed, "Divorce? No, I won't divorce." "Won't divorce? Do you want my son to wear a green hat and endure living like this?" My mother's sarcastic voice echoed throughout the living room. "David, please, don't divorce me, okay? Alex can't live without a father." Jane Chen knelt at my brother's feet, clutching his legs, begging through tears. Mentioning Alex touched a raw nerve. My brother's willingness to divorce was largely because Alex had become intellectually disabled. As expected, my brother kicked her. "You still dare to mention Alex? You ruined his life. Divorce quickly, and take Alex with you." "No, no." Jane Chen trembled, trying to say more. Mr. Su beside her finally realized he had been used. He gave a cold laugh. "David, son, you truly are ruthless. To get a divorce, you'd even push your wife into another man's bed." My brother had no intention of hiding it, so he didn't deny it. On the contrary, Jane Chen, upon hearing this, went mad, lunging at my brother. "David's son, so it was all your calculation. The compensation money is coming soon, and you want to kick me out, right?" "No way," but my brother didn't let up. Slap, slap, 2 slaps sent her tumbling to the ground. "Whether you want a divorce or not isn't up to you. If you don't sign, I'll sue you. You're the party at fault. You won't get a single penny." Jane Chen stared blankly at the man she had lived with all her life, tears streaming like a river. My mother, seeing this, stepped forward to mediate. "Jane Chen, for the sake of you having lived with our family for so many years, although you had no merit, you did suffer. You take Alex, and we will provide monthly living expenses for you too." Jane Chen tried to object, but my brother interrupted. "I advise you to be sensible, don't be ungrateful." With no other options, Jane Chen agreed to the divorce. The procedures were done very quickly. Both sides agreed to give Jane Chen and Alex 1,000 yuan a month in child support, throwing the 1,000 yuan at her as if bestowing charity upon a beggar before driving her away. As she left the house, Jane Chen looked at my brother with resentment and unwillingness. With her personality, not seeking revenge was impossible. It was said that afterwards, Jane Chen took Alex and moved in with Mr. Su. My brother and mother were absorbed in the prospect of the huge compensation money about to come their way, naturally paying no attention to Jane Chen's hatred. Lately, The two of them had become extremely picky about choosing new wives. With money, their demands were also high. My brother wanted to marry a university student, claiming it was to improve the genes of future generations, and also demanded that she be beautiful, with a good figure, so many requirements that matchmakers gave up. I disdainfully thought to myself, such a petty, self-satisfied person like him demanding young, beautiful women, doesn't he look in the mirror to see if he's worthy? A little money and he thinks he's the Jade Emperor. One day, after getting home from work, I heard a matchmaker leaving my house muttering with dissatisfaction. The compensation money was quickly dispersed. My brother didn't choose anyone, but instead used the money to associate with all sorts of bad friends, drinking, womanizing, gambling. I told my mother, "Mom, the compensation money from the countryside includes my share. Give me my part." Although I was allocated less land in the countryside than those two, I still got over 400,000 yuan. At the mention of money, my mother's eyes immediately widened, her expression changing. "We're all family, why divide it like that? When have I ever kept your money? Then give it to me now." Seeing that I wouldn't be swayed, my mother switched to a pleading tone. "Lily, you know your brother and I still don't have a place to live. Just let me hold on to this money for now. When we buy a house, I'll give it back." I laughed coldly inside, knowing that by then, she'd likely never return a single penny. "Mom, what kind of house are you two buying that costs over 3 million yuan? Pay me back my money? When my husband was alive, he borrowed a lot of money outside. Now that I have money, I have to repay my debts. It's not even enough, Mom. Lend me a little more." Hearing about borrowing money, my mother reacted instinctively. "Borrow what? I don't have any money either." After saying that, she glared at me. "I really owe over 1 million outside. If you don't believe me, I can take you to meet the creditors." Seeing my serious expression, not looking like I was lying, my mother began to curse and mutter, "Your father truly was a jinx. Even after dying, he still causes trouble." I sternly said, "Mom, give me back my money." Seeing my tension, my mother grumbled and tried to walk into the bedroom. I blocked her. "What's the rush? Wait until brother comes back tonight, and I'll discuss it with him." That evening, my brother returned drunk. My mother recounted everything to him. At the mention of money, his drunkenness somewhat dissipated. "No money. If you want to repay debts, sell the house and pay them off." My mother also chimed in. "That's right, Lily. This house of yours is quite valuable. Why don't you sell it to pay off your debts? This money still needs to be used for your brother to get married." I was so angry I almost laughed. How shameless could they be to say such things? "Mom, if I sell the house, where will Amy and I live?" I pretended to be wronged, looking at them, because if I tore off the facade and fought them now, I wouldn't have any advantage. "You can just sell this one and buy a smaller one," my brother said nonchalantly. "Mom, am I not your biological daughter?" I had wanted to ask this question in my previous life. How could a mother be so biased? "Lily, you're grown up, why don't you think about your brother a little?" My mother turned to scold me. "You truly disappoint me." I looked at the two of them, half sincerely, half faking despair. "Give me the money and we'll cut ties. Otherwise, the creditors will come looking for you too." "I don't believe your fabricated story," my brother said, ignoring me and turning to go into the room. Seeing that the two didn't believe me, I secretly made a phone call. The next morning, a group of people gathered outside the house. A tall, burly man grabbed my collar, his voice aggressive. "Are you Lily's son? Your husband owed us 1 million yuan when he was alive. Pay up now." The muscular man, covered in tattoos, frowned intimidatingly. My mother and brother, about to step out, saw the scene and immediately secretly closed the door again. "How was it, teacher? I acted pretty well, right?" the tall man whispered to me proudly. No one would have guessed that this group of people, who looked like gang members, were actually my 11th grade students. All their tattoos were temporary stick-ons. "Demand a thorough investigation. No one will believe this is fake." The entire group cooperated with me, smashing furniture in the house. After they left, my brother and mother dared to peek out of their rooms. This time, both were silent, not daring to utter a sound. They immediately transferred my share of the money, then hurriedly dragged me to find a lawyer to complete the procedure for severing our relationship. As soon as they obtained the certificate, the two grabbed their pre-packed luggage, not bothering to look back as they left my house, afraid that even a second's delay would mean encountering real creditors. From then on, the two of them completely disappeared from my life. One time, I went for a health checkup at the hospital and encountered Jane Chen taking Alex for a checkup. Just a few months apart, I almost didn't recognize her. Her face was gaunt, aged like an 80-year-old woman. She froze for a moment when she saw me. "Are you taking Alex for a checkup?" Alex still looked as dull as before, gazing at me with eyes full of hatred. "If it weren't for your brother, we wouldn't be in this situation." I was a little afraid of her seeking revenge, so I told her about my overwhelming debts and how I had severed ties with my brother and mother. Hearing this, she looked stunned. "They were that heartless. You're their relative?" I pretended to shake my head helplessly. "And you, how have you been living?" Perhaps seeing that I wasn't living any better, she seemed to find a kindred spirit and began to confide. "I took Alex to live at Mr. Sue's house. Not long after, he disliked Alex, telling me to abandon him and marry him instead. I refused, and he kicked us out onto the streets. I had to drag Alex around everywhere, relying on others. Your brother, David's son, only gives Alex and me 1,000 yuan a month. How can we live on that?" I pretended to sympathize and cursed with her. "He truly is inhumane. He got over 3 million in compensation, but didn't share a single cent with you two. Alex is his biological son. Who knows, with money, his illness might even be cured." Hearing this, her face darkened, and she hurriedly pulled Alex away. Not long after, a news report spread. Single mother leads intellectually disabled son across the country, begging wealthy father for help. The news quickly went viral across social media. In the news video, Jane Chen knelt on the ground with Alex, bowing to the camera, pleading for help from netizens. The identities of everyone in the story were quickly exposed, leaving nothing hidden. Especially the series of photos of David's son and his bad friends indulging in debauchery, gambling, drinking, and women. He truly had no humanity left. His own son was poisoned, yet he lived a lavish life as if nothing had happened. According to rumors, the previous divorce was a conspiracy orchestrated by David's son just to avoid raising his intellectually disabled child. Looking at the wave of online indignation, I couldn't help but secretly praise Jane Chen for her clever tactics. Finally, under pressure from public opinion, David's son was forced to spend 1 million yuan to treat Alex's illness and promised not to abandon the boy again. It was then that netizens calmed down, but not long after, news broke that Alex had drowned. The police investigated and concluded it was an accident, but netizens didn't believe it, unanimously condemning David's son, even forming their own investigation groups to find the truth. Surprisingly, they found evidence. A hidden camera far from the lake where Alex drowned had recorded the entire incident. On the day it happened, my mother and David's son had taken Alex to the park. But for some unknown reason, when both of them were momentarily distracted, Alex jumped into the lake. By the time they noticed, it was too late. When the surveillance video was released, the case completely reversed. Netizens began to apologize to David's son. David's son immediately seized this opportunity, metaphorically, eating human blood steamed buns, making a considerable profit, even opening a live stream to sell products. But during the very first live stream, disaster struck. Jane Chen appeared. She held a dagger and without a word stabbed David's son to death right as he was introducing a product. The live stream was immediately cut short. Soon after, she also killed David's mother as she tried to flee, then sat down calmly, waiting for the police to arrive. While waiting, she even restarted the live stream, her blood-stained face addressing netizens. Alex's death was not an accident. It was definitely those two who intentionally harmed my son. I warned him many times not to go near the water. He always listened to me. She repeated that sentence many times until the police arrived and stopped her. Finally, Jane Chen was sentenced to death for intentional injury leading to death and executed immediately. All her enemies were dead.